Hey, what's going on? You know who it is. It is Bruce Jordan, the Michael Jordan Hotels at the Hotel Equities Conference. This episode is being sponsored by Winslow and Fisher Hospitality Group, here to take care of all your hotel staffing needs. Today we got Michael is in the house, and he's been all through the Caribbean. You name it, he's been there or on an airplane going to get there. Today's topic is going to be about the difference between the hotel markets between doing business in the Caribbean and the United States. How you doing? Good to see
I'm doing great, Bruce. Great. Thanks for having me here.
you. Anytime, anytime. I ask everybody, how did you get started in this business?
Well, my start was probably a little different than a lot of people. I don't normally tell people this, but I'm a lawyer by training, but I'm a recovering lawyer. Okay, so I'm not a practicing attorney, so you don't need to get scared or anything. Okay, and I practiced law for a while. Actually, my first job was in Brazil. That's what kind of got me interested in the Caribbean and Latin America. I practiced law down there for about 3 years, and then ended up in Miami, practiced law. Then got in the software business for about 12 years
Oh, wow.
and got out of that business. And I just happened to know the founder of a company called Nikki Beach, and he was a friend of mine. And it was a beach club, nightclub company, but we morphed into hotels. And he asked me to come join his company as general counsel and chief development officer. And basically, it was during about 2003 or so. And during a time when it was a wild time, I'll say that in the sense that we sold more champagne than anybody in the world. We had places in Saint Tropez, St. Bart's, Marrakesh, Morocco, Koh Samui, Thailand, New York, Miami, and other exotic spots around the world. And we had beach clubs, nightclubs, and decided to get in the hotel business with the brand. And that was all fine and dandy until the financial crisis hit. And then things kind of slowed down for everybody at that point. And I left that company and joined forces with a small boutique management company and used the contacts that I had from my Nikki Beach days with that company called Trust Hospitality, and we grew that to about 35 hotels under management. And I think the combination of being based in Miami and the time I spent at Nikki Beach lent itself to focusing on the Caribbean and Latin America, where we'd done a number of projects with Nikki Beach. So I knew a lot of the people there, and we ended up with about 35 hotels under management. About 65% of those and 20 or so were in the Caribbean, different islands, different island nations, and some in the Caribbean basis in Cartagena, Mexico, Belize. So that was pretty much our focus, the main focus. We did a partnership with a large company at the beginning of the pandemic out in New York. And so we'd sold that company, and I was doing some consulting work, and I was put in touch with my friends and partners here at Hotel Equities, because they've grown significantly, as you know, over the past few years, and were very interested in expanding in the Caribbean and Latin America. They had done that successfully in Canada 5 years previously, and they said, we want to do it in the Caribbean and Latin America. And I said, well, you guys know what you're getting into. And they said, well, we did it in Canada 5 years ago. I said, wait a minute, guys. The only difference between doing business in Canada and doing business in the United States is Canadians are a lot nicer people.
And there's no island time.
Yeah. Although they may become the 51st state, so then it'll all be just one country, but we'll see what happens there. But anyway, so we agreed that I should join them, and I was honored to do so. And with the 20 plus years that I spent in the Caribbean and Latin America, I joined last April, and we got off to a really strong start. We've signed about 9 contracts so far. We'll probably sign another 12 to 14 this year, and we're working on some strategic partnerships in Mexico and in the Andean region of South America, Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Chile. So, it's exciting.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
looking
amazing.
forward to it. It's a great adventure. They're backing it 100%, and it's great to have partners like that.
What is the top 5 biggest differences that you've seen in doing business in the Caribbean versus doing business in the US? Like,
Yeah, It's complicated down there, and for a number of reasons. You got to remember that the Caribbean's made up of a lot of different island nations. So first and foremost, the legal structure is different. They have different laws. I mean, all laws are similar in a sense that they're based upon the relationship and the rights between people, but the way they're implemented and construed can be different. So you're dealing with a different legal structure. So that's first and foremost. And obviously things like, how does that impact the hotel? Well, you've got the laws as like for human resources and the labor laws and how that works is different than in the United States. And you've got to understand those nuances. You also in some of these countries have different currency, and obviously in some of these countries it's a risk that you don't take when you manage hotels in the United States, a currency risk. If there's fluctuation between the dollar and say the Mexican peso,
They can kill you.
it can have an impact on your revenue, your projections, etc. You've also got in some of these countries, more, I'll call it political risk, slash security risk. Some countries go through quite a bit of turmoil. We were doing a project in Haiti that just got put on hold. And obviously, things aren't good in Haiti right now. And they're going through a tough time right now. Hopefully things will change for the better. That project will get restarted. But the owner, who's Haitian, a great guy, said, hey, we can't be doing this right now. And we'd spent a lot of time and effort, putting this project together, and we were about to break ground on, it was actually a Marriott Courtyard in Haiti. So that's just one example of, that's an extreme example, but all these countries have, a risk that you take there that we don't normally see in the United States. And I think, I saved it for last. I think the biggest thing is there's a lot of cultural difference between the way sometimes we operate in the United States and the way you operate and treat people down there. Now, Hotel Equity strongly subscribes to this, that you treat all people with respect. And I think if you start out with that premise, you'll do okay.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
you still got to understand, that you have to treat people with respect. You have to treat them as equals. Doesn't mean you give up on discipline or a procedure or anything else. And people have to do the right thing. They have to do their part. But you got to be careful. I give you one example of, I know of another hotel company management company that had an operation in the Bahamas, and that was the only property they had outside of the United States. And they tried to bring a sort of New York
Oh, that won't work.
mentality, and it was on what they call family islands in the Bahamas, and where literally everybody that worked at this resort was related to one another. And they had a GM there that was probably wouldn't have been successful in the US either, but the way he treated some of the employees was not the right way. Without respect, he favored some over others. One day nobody showed up for work. And so when you have a hotel full of guests and no employees to take care of them, that's not a good situation. So you got to really be in tune with, the culture and the way people want to be treated. Again, I find the people in the region are hard workers, for the most part, very friendly, eager to learn, but they may not be had the same opportunities that some people in the States have had as far as education and whatnot. So you have to, and they may have different customs that you have to take into account when you deal with the workforce. So I think that's the biggest challenge that a lot of companies from the US have when you go down there. You can't go down with an attitude that we know everything and we're going to show you how to do everything. Things are done differently down there, and you have to be aware of them. Doesn't mean there's not room for improvement. Doesn't mean you can't improve the processes, but you just have to be aware of the cultural nuances of doing business in some of these countries.
What about infrastructure? Because I know, like, I remember I went to this island. There was like, we haven't had a major hospital here for
A
decades.
hospital, you say?
Yeah.
That's an issue on some islands, Obviously, you wanna go to a remote, island that's exotic and untouched, and, you're not gonna have a 400-bed hospital on that
There
island,
you go. There you
And,
go.
and obviously, as a hotel, you would have contingency plans. If somebody gets sick, it happens. Somebody gets hurt, it happens. That you would, have an evacuation procedure, that you would have, you could get a helicopter on that island and get them to another island that has good healthcare, or even back to the United States if necessary. So those are all the kind of things you have to plan for. You got to remember too, it's very, another thing that I didn't mention earlier that I should have mentioned was a lot of these islands don't have the resources that you have, and you have to import everything. So, that becomes the logistics becomes a real challenge. Some of the things you can, call up and get, delivered in an hour or so, you don't have Amazon delivering, to Dominica, for example, so you got to really plan ahead and, and foresee all of these things that can happen and make sure that, you're prepared for the inevitable that's going to happen.
Yeah, hey, I think it's like that in Canada too. I think Amazon just closed down in Canada, so you may not have the same thing as there as well.
Well, exactly, and, but, and then it's like, you gotta get containers full of food, so, when you build a hotel, just another good example, and you want, say, quality meats, and you're gonna get those meats, whether it's from the US or Argentina or wherever, but, it's something you can't get delivered every day.
Yeah.
So you gotta when you build that hotel, you gotta have more freezer space to put, these foodstuffs in, for a longer duration because you're getting stuff shipped in, maybe not the meats, but
Yeah.
other materials in by containers.
Oh, and worse, like the water, electricities may go out, like,
Well, backup generators
Yeah.
in the property, and by the way, your electricity is usually about 4 times as expensive as it is in the States, so solar and sustainability become an economic necessity, not just a feel good, "It'd be great to have this."
Wow. Wow. That is a big, big difference. Well, listen, thank you, Mike, so much for being on the show.
Bruce, appreciate you having me for
How
a few
can
minutes.
everybody get in touch with you?
Yeah, obviously, I'm at Hotel Equities, register at hotelequities.com, and feel free to call my phone number directly, 305-608-3522. Thanks for having me, Bruce.
And thank you. And thank you for joining us for another episode of Hotel Insider. This is Bruce Short, the Michael Jordan Hotels, signing out.
It's Peter Wenzel coming from Las Vegas at the 2025 All-In Hotel Equities Leadership Conference. I'd like to thank everyone that has sat down with Bruce Jordan today to talk about your experience and your insights throughout the industry. And if you are in need of hotel task force staffing, call me directly. Get in touch with me on LinkedIn. My cell phone number, 551-260-4453. My email address, and I look forward to meeting everybody and taking care of your hotel staffing needs. Call WNF and let us take your hotel one step forward and deliver the ultimate hospitality experience. Thank you.